Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Chris Murray Report on WURD Radio here in Philadelphia. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, I always start the show by saying we have a lot to cover, a lot to unpack this week. Two things, two big headliners in this city. One, the Eagles finally traded Carson Wentz to the Indianapolis Colts for, I don't know, what may amount to magic beans or something. Or another way to look at it is that they got rid of a headache. They're going to take a salary cap hit, and we have to ponder the future of this team. So at the bottom, I'm going to get more into that at the bottom of the hour with my man Al Thompson from Football Stories and Magazine coming up at about 11:35. Another local thing, Joel Embiid. Got to talk about him, and you got to put him in the category of possible MVP candidate, because last night he scored 50 points in the Sixers win over the Chicago Bulls. He was just magnificent. I didn't really catch that game. I came home late last night, so if I look kind of funny, because I was up late. I watched that game I watched the rerun of the game and kind of went through the whole game before I had to do the show today. And I gotta say, I've been watching the Sixers. He played like an MVP candidate. That's the best. Jordan, I got to tell you, brother, that is the best. Is that the best you've seen Embiid play in this time in Philly? It's got to be the best.
Definitely. He's playing to his potential. Out of all the years he's been here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this was a team that was playing without Ben Simmons. You still need Ben Simmons' defensive presence. And you still need him in there. And for as much as we can criticize Ben Simmons for his shooting, you still need him on that floor. Sure. And we can be critical of that. But the thing is that you gotta talk about him in that same air, in the same company as a lot of guys. I don't know if he'll get it. I mean, guys, Jamal Murray for Denver. For Denver. Yep. Had 50 points last night, and I saw him play. I was just like, it's just the talent, and it's good to see. And meanwhile, I think Tobias Harris had about had over 22 points. Tobias Harris is playing well. I mean, you got a lot of guys, Seth Curry. You got a lot of kids who are really, really playing well. And granted, I don't know, the Nets are starting to come on. The Nets get their big three. I think they're probably the team to beat in the Eastern Conference, but between Kyrie, James Harden, and Kevin Durant, that team is the team to beat. And you have to be honest about that. They are the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. And so the Sixers, I think, are going to be there. Maybe they have to make a move at the trade deadline. I don't know. I mean, I think at the end of the day, they're just as good. And to get them in the series, I mean, Durant's unstoppable when he's on. That's, that's the only thing, Jordan, that I like to be. I'm on the Sixers bandwagon. I like what I'm seeing. I hope they at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. I mean, I think they're good enough to do that. Yeah. I think they have more depth than Boston does, and I think that they can be as good as anyone playing in the NBA. And I mean, I saw what the Nets did to the Lakers the other night.
Yep.
I mean, the Nets are good. The Nets are a good team when head cases aren't being head cases and guys aren't hurt.
Right.
They're pretty darn good team.
Yeah, and I gotta say this about James Harden too. Ever since back in Houston, he was like the best scorer and stuff like that. He would score over 40 points a night or so. Now he's kind of playing a much different. He's taking a different approach. He's being more of a facilitator, being a point guard and stuff. And even Kyrie actually was fine with him being a point guard, because now with Kyrie playing off the ball, he's giving himself more freedom to just go to work.
And like I said, they're going to get those three guys are going to get together. at playoff time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't matter, even though the Sixers beat them earlier this year and they beat the Sixers. I mean, we have not seen how that matchup is really going to shake itself out. We haven't seen it yet until that point. I mean, regular season is hard, unlike the NFL, and even in the NFL, it's hard to tell what happens in the regular season because sometimes teams aren't together. I still remember the year the Eagles lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the championship game. They did beat Tampa Bay during the regular year. And a lot of times things happen, chemistry, you know a team. That's the beauty of sports, is that you know it. You know people in the playoffs. You know you scouted them, you played against them, and there's a certain familiarity. And to me, what often wins is how well you can play at that particular time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's all about momentum. Like, what's your momentum like going into the playoffs? Because you saw you saw Miami last year. Like, you wouldn't even think about them making all the way up to the finals. Like, you would think it would be like Boston or any other team.
Right. I thought Boston was the best team last year before, but Jimmy Butler made a run. And a lot of times you can't stop momentum. Like you saw the Super Bowl this year.
Yep.
You can't stop a team that's on the run. I still remember those Baltimore Ravens, the first Baltimore Ravens team that went to the Super Bowl. They barely had a quarterback that season. Barely. I mean, Trent Dilfer did enough to, all right, we'll keep y'all in it. Okay? And the defense played really well in those situations. So same thing, Seattle, a couple, with the Legion of Boom. I mean, when your momentum's a tricky system. I mean, I've seen NCAA tournament. You're going to see teams that, maybe not have played that great during the regular season. I see it all the time in recent years in sports, last 30 years. You're playing well at a certain part of the season, you're going to do well. Oh, well, let me get you the numbers. I still want y'all to call in here today because I want y'all, show me some love. I know it's cold outside and you don't feel like going nowhere, so you might as well join me. Might as well have fun with me and Jordan today. So here are the numbers: 215-634-8065, 1-866-361-0900. If you're calling outside of the Delaware Valley, the tri-state area, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. That's three. Yeah, I hope I said that right. In the state of Delaware. So any of you calling in these areas, man, call in. Let me go vent your spleen, and all that. Now, I want to talk about the Eagles near the bottom of the hour, but I want to say something though. One thing we speculate a lot on the show. We may not always be right. We may not always know all the inside dope and everything. And when I cover, because I have another job at another not another newspaper, but because I teach during the week. And, normally when I'm covering games, when I'm working for a newspaper, I'm there, I'm trying to be on the site and everything. So I'm there when I can be there. And the way I look at it, the way I look at things, there were a lot of things that came out about Carson Wentz and that, we've had Joe San Loquido, and I'm going to have him on at the 12:30 hour because he was the guy. Out of all the people I know in this town, I know a lot of great reporters in this town. I know a lot of them. But he was one of the first ones who was basically, talking about Wentz and all that and how people view Wentz, and he managed to get inside. A lot of people criticized Joe. A lot of people within our profession criticized him for breaking the story because, after all, Carson Wentz was the golden boy at one point. But it turns out that Carson was a diva and had issues in terms of getting along with his coaches. One story that came out according to Adam Schefter of ESPN is that Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz did not talk with each other for about maybe 9 or 10 weeks into the season. That's bad. I mean, Jordan, that is not good. And then the other story that I heard was that the people liked Jalen Hurts because he was in the coach's room and the quarterback's room every day preparing, and people on the team saw him as a leader. I want to get into that today. I'll talk to Joe about it, but the thing is that I don't know where this Eagles team is going to be. Where this Eagles team is going. I think right now they're in rebuild mode. I don't see them as a contender, barring we're looking for instant contender in the NFC East this year. No, I mean, I don't think so at this point, as of February 20th.
Right.
And we haven't had OTAs or the combine and all this other stuff yet. We have to understand that at this point, I'm not expecting Super Bowl. I'm not expecting playoff. They're going to have to rebuild at this point. And maybe it's a good thing. I mean, they cut Deshaun Jackson this week. He was released. Okay? So, you got to start all over. And I know fans nobody wants to see their team losing, because in the zero-sum game that we know in the country, we either win or you're going to lose. Sometimes you got to, build yourself back up. So, sometimes it happens, and you're not going to always win in life. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I always tell people, if you make the playoffs every year, maybe you don't win the Super Bowl, that's fine. That's okay. As long as you're contending. As long as you're contending, you may not win it every year. Heck, you may not win it at all. When you are contending, you may not be there, but you want to see team winning. Okay?
Yeah.
You want to have a winning season. And it doesn't, through all the sports pundits and it doesn't mean a thing without the ring. Well, maybe it doesn't, but the thing is, there's a lot involved. Sometimes, like I said, I look at the late Marty Schottenheimer's teams, Cleveland Browns teams. Man, they were great teams. But, sometimes the other guy that day was better. John Elway was better on a 98-yard drive. Ernest Biner couldn't hold on to the football. Boy, I wasn't even a Browns fan, but I felt really bad for that game. I was like, nah, man. And it wasn't like Ernest Biner just fumbled the ball. It was an effort play. Boom, took the ball out of his hands. Happens. He didn't win it. So sometimes, you got to appreciate. People didn't people say Donovan McNabb never won the big one. But you know what, though? At least you were in it every year. And granted,
that's true.
It ain't, and it's not as big as the goal. Everybody wants to win. Not everybody's going to win it. Sometimes if you give the best effort possible, if you're there trying, if you're not, it's not like, if you're not losing every year, going 4-12 or something like that. Sometimes people in this era of sports, I gotta win now, gotta win today. Nobody appreciates, like, for example, the one quarterback. And I know pop culture doesn't like me talking about history. I get that. But I remember one quarterback of the 1960s, Don Meredith of the Dallas Cowboys, had those Cowboys teams, was the first Cowboys quarterback to make the Cowboys relevant. Cowboys were not America's team that everybody hated in the late 60s and 70s. I'm a witness to that, okay? I saw it as a kid. I kind of admired those Cowboys team because they kept trying, because they weren't going to beat the dynasties of the Green Bay Packers. And then Cleveland Browns had some good teams when they were all, at one time Cleveland and Dallas were in the same conference, and they played each other every year in the playoffs. And, Browns had my man Leroy Kelly out of Morgan State, Philadelphia native. You had sometimes, teams are good. Sometimes teams are going to beat, sometimes the other guy's better than you that day. But we're caught up as, it doesn't mean anything about the Super Bowl. Well, to me, and that's why I say Don Meredith should be in the Hall of Fame, because he was a guy, he put the Cowboys on the map as the quarterback, him and Bob Hayes, So when I look at these things, I'm old school in that regard. I look at the ESPN generation of sports fans. Not you, Jordan. You're a nice guy. You're a good guy. But I look at some of the things that come out of today's sports fans. And I look at y'all crazy. Y'all don't know anything of. Y'all don't understand the histories of the game and all that. You really don't, and you really, really don't. And I'm not saying that to anybody. Jordan. I'm not gonna say that to you, but I'm just gonna say that to a lot of people. I say that to even my colleagues who work at the daily newspapers and TV stations in this town. You know, this hype around you. Win at all costs. Okay, yeah, I agree with you, but you want to win, but a lot of times, you know, sometimes it's the luck of the draw, too. We got Joe real quick from Germantown before we go to break. Joe, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, Brother Chris and Jordan? How y'all brothers doing today?
Doing good.
We're doing okay.
Our praises be to Allah. Let me say this, Chris. I'm going to talk about Carson Wentz and Rush Limbaugh. I'm going to tie them together real quick. But first, you're right. You see, Chris, you said about how these guys, they come across sometimes before, and that's why I can't stomach that nonsense on ESPN with Stephen A. and Ryan Clark and them guys, because everything with them, the latest is the greatest. You know, if you don't win something, you will lose. Them guys got no credibility. Because anytime you can be that ignorant to sit there and say Tom Brady, the greatest football player ever, over Jim Brown, after what that man has to go through. I know right there.
Or Jerry Rice.
So I don't need Jerry Rice for that matter. So I don't even, like I said, to me, they got no credibility. But anyway, on Carson Wentz, you know, it was heard on another station that this guy was such a diva. And if a black quarterback like Randall Cunningham or Donovan did, they said the guy was such an egomaniac and a diva that remember when you would see Jalen out there a lot of times and Carson would be out there too. And sometimes you say, why Carson out there? They say he insisted on being on the field the same time Jalen was on there. When Jalen would do those little trick plays or whatever he would do, the little running, they say Carson was with Peterson and wanted to be out there because he didn't want to appear that he wasn't part of the play. I mean, you got to be the most childish, immature, you know, whatever you want to call him, to be that, you know, I mean, come on, man. This guy was a disgrace while he was here, and he made Jeff Lurie and Roseman look like the fools they are because they got rid of their Super Bowl winning coach just to please this diva, and he still get the Eagles that's behind the kiss. You understand what I'm saying, Chris? So he made them look like fools.
I understand exactly what you're saying because...
And Chris, hold it, Chris. Before you say, and Chris, I want to hold you up too long. And I say this about Limbaugh before I leave. I'll let you comment after I hang up. You know, I don't get no joy out of nobody's death or anything. But you, Chris, I'm not going to sit here this morning and tell you I'm depressed, shedding tears for the likes of Rush Limbaugh. It's amazing when somebody dies, how this white media try to make this person like he was not a nice guy. If you remember, Chris, you're a sports person. You know how he attacked Donovan McNabb at that time? So that Donovan was overrated because he was social engineering. They hyping McNabb up because he's a black quarterback. But never mind the fact you got all these bum white quarterbacks out there. Rush Limbaugh never spoke against them and everything. He was sing out Donovan, the man that went to 4 straight NFC title games. Number 2, he called black Crips when he watched the NBA. They look like Bloods and Crips. He made that comment, Chris. I don't know if you remember that. He said the NBA looked like Bloods and Crips. He called the black football players out like a bunch. He said, I think one time he said to the effect, they look like thugs out there. So this man has been fanning the flames of racism from the time he got into the media, and he made a fortune off of it. This bum was making $30 million a year, him and them other creeps like him. Spin our hatred, you know, he sort of the rise of the Proud Boys and all these other white hate groups and stuff. He was part and parcel to the rise of these kind of people. So for me, for him to get there and try to act like he was such a nice guy, he was not a nice guy. He was a bigot when he was alive, and even though he's deceased now, he's still a bigot. He's a bigot in death. So I'm not going to sit up there and shed no tears for the likes of Rush Limbaugh. He's a filthy story.
All right,
that's the bottom line.
Joe, I hate to cut you off. I have to get ready to go to break, but I do agree with that, and I'm not going to disparage anybody in their death, but other than the fact that, other than with Rush Limbaugh, other than God rest his soul, and because I say that for everybody, and I don't want to tell anybody to burn in hell or anything, because I don't want to burn in hell. I don't want anybody else to burn in hell. I don't want to see anybody burn, but in life, Rush Limbaugh was not a nice person. You're right about that. We'll deal with that when we come back from the break. Listen to 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURD, the Chris Murray Report. To be right back.
I'm Anthony McLaughlin. Been denied insurance? Call 888-307-0505. Life insurance, age 0 to 85, no examination needed. Homeowners insurance, any home, any condition, same-day coverage, 888-307-0505. Auto insurance, we can have you covered in 15 minutes. Business insurance, call 24 hours a day, 888-307-0505. I'm Anthony McGlaughlin. When you need insurance, I can help.
Well, the kids are in bed. Time for a little grown-up quiet time.
What do you mean quiet time? It's your birthday. We're about to party.
Haha, funny. It's gonna have to be a you and me party this year. You know we can't have anybody over.
Well, your mom and dad are coming from Florida. Sis will be here from California. Oh, and a couple of old friends from just about everywhere will be showing up. They should all be here about now.
COVID-19 has changed the way we do things, for now. But social distancing doesn't mean you can't be social. COVID-19 doesn't have to keep us apart. Friends and family are finding new ways to be together, especially with how hard it's hitting the Black community. Vaccines are here, but until enough of us are vaccinated, we still have to be down with slowing the spread. Keep a 6-foot distance, wear a mask, and avoid indoor social gatherings. Learn more about vaccines and slowing the spread at cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Need a new mattress? Stop by to see Julian, the mattress man, located at 7421 Stenton Avenue. You deal directly with the owner, Julian, to ensure the best prices on name brand mattresses like Sealy, Posturepedic. Call 215-424-5550. That's 215-424-5550.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent Black media.
Okay, we are back. I know the last commercial that song, I always dance to that every time I hear that. I like that. That cut's bad, man. But anyway, a couple of things. I want to go back to something, going back to Joe from Germantown and talk about Rush Limbaugh and what he said about Donovan and all that. You know, he was socially engineered. That was just ridiculous. And when he said that, but, you know, people like, you know, I guess your legacy in life is that you were a mean person to other people, man. I know people want to say, oh, geez, everybody should just go to hell or something like that. I'm not a fan of telling people that. I would never say that as a Christian or a person who believes in God because, you know, like I said, we all fall short of the glory. But in life, all thing I can say is that Rush Limbaugh was a bigot. Good God. I mean, I lived in Michigan. I was living in my first job out of graduate school, my first time in grad school, was at the Bay City Times and the Saginaw News. Saginaw, I hated Saginaw with passion, but then I hated that newsroom. That's a long story. But I only had like one radio station, AM station, in this old Chevy Chevette that I had. And the sole station that I could hear from Flint or Saginaw and whatnot, you know, would kind of peter out at night, you know, during the you could hardly hear it if you were in certain parts of the city of that area. But and so I had to listen to Rush Limbaugh because I needed some media, some sound on when I was, and that's when I just learned man how vile and disgusting a human being he was, and that's when I was just like, you know, I couldn't listen to the guy for 5 minutes. Okay, I couldn't listen to the guy for 5 minutes, and so, you know, it's just one of those things. Okay, we have on the line, and I had a neighbor who liked him too, but my neighbor was cool, but anyway, we have Richard from North Philadelphia. Richard, what is on your mind today, brother?
Hey, Chris, it's good to have you and Jordan back again, man. Well, listen, Chris, as far as the NBA is concerned, Joel Embiid, man, he's the beast. He's in the East right now, and he's playing out of his mind like he's never played before, man. Putting up 50 points last night, and he just seemed to be, you know, the man doing it all, man. Yeah, I'm sure he's going to be an MVP candidate. You know, if they don't pick LeBron, you know, there's something or favorite, you know, days to do, you know, and like that. But I think Joel Embiid, this is his year, man. You know, like that. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Are we getting the feel of, say, 2001 with Allen Iverson and that, you know, because in 2001, it was like you had this sense watching the Sixers, and even when I was living in the D.C. area, you know, right around the time Denise and I first started dating, you know, we you know, I love the Sixers, and I've always loved the Sixers. And you know, going back to when Julius was there, and I had this sense that these guys are going to the finals. It's almost like that year was almost preordained and whatnot. Not that it was. I mean, they had tough competition to get through. Are you getting that feeling? Do you get that feeling right now?
Yes, I am. As a matter of fact, even more so. Right now, because I think the Sixers are the best right now so far here in the East. Now the Brooklyn Nets are going to be quite a challenge for us, but I think that this is the year for the Sixers. I really do believe, even more so right now, because the Sixers should be more healthy. Now, back in 2001, Sixers were kind of banged up. Then, they couldn't do very much. The Lakers just ran over them. So I believe this year, though, I think the Sixers, should be ready.
You think they ought to be ready? Okay, well, that's good. I will go with that. I will go with that.
Now,
okay.
Carson Wentz. Now, well, in some respects, I'm not going to say anything about Carson Wentz because I know that he too is a believer. He's supposed to be a Christian, even though what I heard was some of the stuff that they've been saying about Carson Wentz, even though some of it could be exaggerated. I heard someone say, yes, on one station that 10 times that he did not talk to the coach for 10 weeks or something like that. They didn't.
Yeah, we just talked about that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, just talked about that. Yeah. And like that. So, to me, it seems, I don't know what destroyed him. I think maybe the day when what's his name got drafted, maybe, I guess that has something to do with it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because he's a head quarterback. Quarterbacks are very sensitive, people. Yeah, so what do you think?
I think that, if granted, I thought it was a bad move on the front office part to bring in Jalen Hurts, and I like Jalen Hurts. I'm talking from a front office perspective. It's a terrible move.
Yeah.
If you're going to be committed to Carson Wentz, but I wonder if they had the feeling. I wonder if excuse me, if he was somehow hedging his bets that Carson wouldn't be, because he hadn't been healthy. And they were talking about this is a competition thing. Well, and maybe this is a byproduct, and people like Jordan will beat me up if they see me in the streets, of a generational thing when I say that, okay? Because sometimes some guys don't react to competition very well, and they don't. And I can tell you from a variety of experiences that I've had, some people don't react to competition well. And so, you can look at how Aaron Rodgers reacted to them bringing in that kid Jordan Love, and he almost took his team to the Super Bowl. So different guys have to react. And plus, Carson was trying to deal with, in his defense, the fact that he got hurt the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and Nick Foles, came in and basically took the thunder. And so, that might be hard for some guys to recover from. I mean, he wants to win. He wants to, like anything else, the guy wants to win. So let me think.
Okay.
And thank you for the call. I got to get to the next one. I'm trying to get I'm hoping my guest should call in at some point. So we have Brother Mike from the great state of Ohio. What's happening, Mike?
Hey, brother. I live in Ohio, but I'm from Philly. But anyway,
I know. I got you, man. I know that, but I'm, Go ahead, man.
Thank you, man. It's a very nice city. I really think a lot of this town, and in fact, the basketball team is doing very, very well here, and they're playing my favorite team with Juwan Howard tomorrow, because I love Juwan Howard. So I hope that Michigan pulls that out. But I think O State is probably ranked in the top 10.
Ohio State is ranked. They've got a nice squad. I saw them.
They got a nice squad.
They have a nice squad. I saw them play Maryland, and Maryland hung in with them, but couldn't get past. They're a talented team, and that coach has a lot of energy. And I'm going to take the other side. I hope Ohio. I'm an alum of Michigan State, and anytime Michigan loses, I'm happy. And I love Juwan Howard too.
Yeah, he's a good guy. But there are a couple of things, though, Chris. The Sixers I don't think they're tough enough, man. Boston's tough. Jaylen Brown is a tough guy. I mean, he stepped it up this year. And they know how to go 7 games in fight. Milwaukee knows how to go 7 games in fight. The Nets have 3 guys who know how to go 7 games in fight. The Sixers have no one with that kind of heart. So I think
I'm going to beg to differ. I beg to differ with you on that.
That's fine.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. But go ahead.
I think what you're saying, the difference, and I say this to everybody, I mean, Sixers this year, that they have men coaching them. And I'll go further to say they have black men coaching them. And black men, we coach differently, like Coach John Chase, like Coach Bill Thompson from Georgetown. We coach
John
differently.
Thompson.
So you got John Thompson. So you got Popeye Jones over there. You got Sam Cassell. And of course, Miller. So that's the difference you're seeing with Embiid. You got men talking to him and telling him, listen, put the ball in the hoop. Put that ball in the hoop because you can. So I think that is the difference that the city is seeing with the Sixers. And then the last piece of it, since Embiid and Ben Simmons got here, the Sixers were like this entertainment team. You go down to the game, you had, the rappers there and all that kind of stuff. So those guys really just didn't have, in my mind, the mental focus to be tough because there was a lot of other stuff going on in that atmosphere. And this year, obviously, there's no fans, so you don't have that. And again, you have men that are talking to these guys, they're in their face and saying, put that ball in the hoop. No, you're not tired, you're not sitting down, you're going to play ball. And I think that is the biggest difference that we're seeing in the Sixers. And I'll hang up and make your comment.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Mike. Well, here's the thing. You said something. I mean, you're right on one level that the coaching staff has made a difference. And I think that this team, as a team, is mentally tougher than what they were in the last couple of years. Their games this season, if you watch the games this season, I see them play really good games. Even when they blew a lead against the Lakers, and they almost blew a lead, I think, against, I want to say Houston. And what I noticed was that they kept fighting as a team, okay? Didn't see that last year. You saw the bits and pieces. Maybe you saw it in bits and pieces. But for the most part last season, they blew leads. Jordan, am I right? Jordan, step in.
Yep, you're right. Last year, if we were to blow leads, we would not be coming back from them.
Right.
We would not be coming back. But this year, it's just, like you said, we just keep fighting. Yeah. Even if we blow it, even if we lose the lead, we still fighting coming back. Right.
And that's been the difference this year. I'm waiting for my good buddy Al Thompson to join us. He should be calling in a few minutes. He should be joining us in the next maybe 30 seconds or so. But going back to now the Sixers, it's a different team. It's just the coaching has made a difference. The coaching has has made a difference with this team. It has. And I think that they play, even in the loss, even in a couple of losses, you had this feeling, I think it was it New Jersey, someone they lost to, someone that they lost to this year. You had this sense of that, you really have this sense of just, what's going here now. Before we got to go to break. When we come back from break, I'm bringing Al Thompson from Football Stories and Magazine because we run up on, we're still trying to beat the clock here. So I'm going to bring him back and talk about the Carson Wentz situation when we come back. You listen to 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURD, the Chris Murray Report. Will be right back.
Today, millions of Americans face barriers to obtaining a college degree. But at WGU, we're setting out to change that. With a range of scholarships and grants aimed at expanding access to a quality education, making tuition more affordable, and giving students a path forward, we're helping people turn obstacles into opportunities. Because everyone deserves a chance to succeed. WGU, ambition never rests. Visit WGU.edu to learn more.
Okay, Her's new fire potato chips and cheese curls, they are spicy. Whew, they're hottest snacks yet. Hold on. Whew. But you know, it's not just heat. There's some nice sweet and savory stuff going on too. Ooh, there's that heat again. It burns, but it burns so tasty. Ooh, that's hot. Find Her's Fire Snacks at your store today. Whew. Taste the flavor, feel the heat, break out the Her's.
WURD Radio celebrates Black History Month with Black Artist Story 365. Brought to you by Southwest Leadership Academy Charter School.
Welcome to Black Artist Story 365. My name is Envy McKee. Get into this episode where we explore the art and artistry of revolutionary poet Gil Scott Heron. King Gil was born in Chicago, Illinois. His mother, Bobby Scott, was an opera singer who performed with the New York Oratorio Society. His father, Gil Heron, nicknamed the Black Arrow, was a Jamaican soccer player in the 1950s who became the first black man to play for the Celtic Football Club in Glasgow. What? Heron decided to attend Lincoln University because Langston Hughes, his most important literary influence, was an alumnus. After about 2 years at Lincoln, he took a year off to write the novels The Vulture and The Nigger Factory. Uncle Gil was very heavily influenced by the Black arts movement and the last poets. Although King Uncle Gil never completed his undergraduate degree, he was admitted to the writing seminars at Johns Hopkins University, where he received an MA, that's a Master of Arts, in creative writing. His music, most notably on the albums Pieces of a Man and Winter in America in the early 1970s, influenced and foreshadowed later Black music genres such as hip-hop and neo-soul. King Duke Uncle Gil is considered by many to be the first rapper/MC ever. His recording work received much critical acclaim, especially one of his best-known compositions, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised.
You will not be able to stay home, brother.
Given the political consciousness that lies at the foundation of his work, we'll say star Uncle Gil was the founder of political rap.
You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised.
So that's it for this episode of Black Artist Story 365. My name is Envy McKee. To hear more, tune in to The Envy McKee Show, Friday nights, 7 to 10 p.m., right here on WURD.
Black Artist Story 365 was brought to you by Southwest Leadership Academy Charter School and the Pennsylvania Lottery. Get to winning with Win, 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 the new scratch-off from the Pennsylvania Lottery, with top prizes of $500,000. Players must be 18 or older. Please play responsibly. Benefits older Pennsylvanians every day.
Jefferson Health offers no-cost COVID-19 testing sites at St. Raymond of Pinafort Church. Testing is on Thursdays and Saturdays. The second testing location has been added at Richard Allen Preparatory Charter School. Testing is on Wednesdays and Fridays. For testing hours and more information, visit jeffersonhealth.org/community testing.
Keeping you informed. As a community service, WURD Radio and the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium wants to keep you informed about access to the COVID-19 vaccine. The Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium will conduct a 24-hour Phase 1B vaccination clinic for residents in designated prioritized zip codes. Friday, February 19th from 12 noon until Saturday, February 20th at 12 noon at Temple University's Liacouras Center. No appointment is necessary. First come, first served. For a list of prioritized zip codes, visit blackdoctorsconsortium.com. Stay informed and stay well with WURD Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Independent Black Media.
Okay, we are back. On the line with us is from Football Stories, the magazine, my good buddy Al Thompson. Al, how are you?
All right, Chris, how are you?
I'm doing okay. Yeah, I gotta get your take from all this because I didn't get a chance to stop by your show this week. Been running up and down, but what's your take on the whole Carson Wentz situation, and how much of a mess? Who do you blame for it breaking down? Was it Peterson? Was it the front office? How do you see this situation?
Well, it's not from one day. It's not from the trade day and just the lousy, on the surface looks like a lousy deal that the Eagles got in trading Wentz. It's been a situation that has festered since Nick Foles took over the offense and won the Super Bowl. I mean, you created a schism between, the Nick Foles and Carson Wentz. I mean, Wentz came here as the savior. He was going to lead them to that promised land, and it in the most bizarre way you can think of, that's what happened. It was that Foles did it, and not him. So there was always this cloud over his head since that happened. And then, the guy hasn't really missed that many games for injuries, only 8 during his 5 years with the Eagles, but the timing of them has always been awful. I mean, it couldn't have been worse. So then you have these untimely injuries, and obviously, I remember a national reporter saying that, or television guy saying that, it wasn't so much that Doug Peterson got fired. It was that Peterson was just tired of being told what to do. He didn't have anywhere near the influence that previous head coaches here had, particularly Andy Reid and Chip Kelly. I mean, he was basically, here are your players. We're going to give you your roster. You're going to have very little say over it. Just coach. And after you win a Super Bowl, and it just seemed like that situation wasn't going to get any better. You had a situation where Carson Wentz, at some point, believed that he didn't have to listen to the head coach. He walks around with a chip in his shoulder, being a 1AA quarterback to begin with, and you had lousy ownership, leadership, Jerry Lurie, and in keeping this all somehow in line. And it just, at some point, something was going to give, and it finally did. So it remains to be seen. These teams are amazing in the NFL. That's the fun part about the NFL is teams do these about faces. In 2016 or 2015, wasn't it? The Atlanta Falcons were 8-8, and the following year they go to the Super Bowl. The Eagles were 7-9, then they win the Super Bowl. So anything's really possible if you're an Eagles fan. I mean, they can, it's kind of the history of the league. But that's my take, is that it was just something that just got worse and worse and worse. You have massive egos at this level. And, the two biggest things were they let Frank Reich walk and they let Joe Douglas walk. When those two guys left, that was your real talent, I thought, at putting the team together and coaching them. And once those two guys left, it was a huge void, and you can see what happened, obviously.
So where do they go from here? I mean, I look at Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts could be, from what I understand, the guy has a tremendous work ethic. The guy comes in, the guy's a gym rat, and he works really hard. But do you think moving forward that the franchise, in the 6th position in the draft, and this is where I think it gets really interesting, will they go, do you think they're open to getting another quarterback? That if Justin Fields or another kid, oddly enough, out of North Dakota State is available,
that'd
do
be
you
ironic.
think? Yeah, that would be ironic if they picked. I was thinking I think it's Jaron something. I had to look it up, but the thing is that would they go with? Because I think they have all kinds of needs on that offensive line. They have every need. I mean, offensive line, linebackers. Please, I pray that they have a coach that knows how to deal with the linebacker position. So, where do you see them going in this draft, or even free agency? Should they make a trade for Deshaun Watson?
Deshaun Watson would be incredible. That would be they would bring the house down if they could do that. They would turn. Howie Roseman could run for mayor on the Republican side, if he pulled that off. You know what I mean? And that's an 8-1 margin there. You know what I mean? And
right.
I'm being facetious here. You do know that, right?
I know.
I'm on WURD radio here. But no, I think Howie Roseman could do one of the greatest about faces in sports history if he landed Deshaun Watson. That man is so talented and such an amazing quarterback. And he'd come here and he'd be an instant success. You wonder what would happen with Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks and would Jason Kelsey be inspired to make sure he comes back for 2 more years? And same thing with the left side of the line. Does Andre Dillard improve? Does Isaac Siamalo make that big jump? That would be amazing if they got him. But is it realistic? Who knows? They don't have much money to. They took a $35 million hit with this guy, but the NFL, their cap is really flexible. I mean, they can do a lot of things with it, and they've reworked Lane Johnson's contract so many times that maybe they could just do that again. They just got $5 million almost from dumping Deshaun Jackson. So, that would be incredible if they could get him. Yeah, I think Marcus Mariota is out there somewhere. Derek Carr could come here, and I think that they'd be better off getting a veteran because they have such a veteran O-line, and stockpile these draft picks and start drafting, for other positions like wide receiver, linebacker, and offensive line. So I think drafting a quarterback would be crazy. Jalen Hurts, I'm not a Jalen Hurts guy. I thought he showed some things, but when you have 7 second-half quarters and all you can come up with is 13 measly points, that's it. And and you had a chance to steal the division against the Dallas Cowboys, and you just blocked. I mean, it was a historically horrible defense, and they dominated you. And I know he had all kinds of issues with the O-line and some of his skill positions. Zach Ertz was terrible last year. A lot of it was injuries, but whatever. I know he had a lot of things against him, but great players overcome that. We saw a little stretch of that with Carson Wentz the year before. Remember when he won those 5 games, or 4 games in a row to steal a division and get the playoffs? Remember that?
I remember that.
He had practice squad players and a makeshift O-line. So Jalen Hurts didn't do any of those things.
Yeah,
and
I think. But one of the things he was a rookie, and I still say that he was thrown into a difficult situation. I think that he had a lot more to. I mean, I'm not gonna knock him down for that. I'm not, and I don't know if you can really tell a guy's greatness off the back. I mean, old story growing up. I heard Johnny Unitas on his first, pass through it is through a pick 6. So I don't know if that's that's the thing when we look at the draft, because something Jeffrey Lurie said that at his press conference. I think that there's a real desire on the part of this team to just blow everything. I think certain guys, certain fan favorites are going to get cut down the line because of salary cap situation. I think ultimately they want to blow this thing up and start all over again. What are your thoughts on that?
That's very possible, but that's never kind of been Lurie's thing. But these are crazy times, and does he dump a Brandon Graham? Does he dump a Fletcher Cox? I mean, they just spent a lot of money on Darius Slay. Are they going to, I just don't see them doing that, to be honest with you. But there could be some fan favorites. Yeah, you're right that they could dump. Do they finally cut bait with Brandon Graham or Fletcher Cox? I mean, they played okay. I don't think the defense was the reason why they were a 4-win team last year. I mean, they couldn't score points, and he had a quarterback that was, couldn't function. He had, from the neck up, he had problems, and then his O-line was just his unbelievable amount of injuries. That's just stunning how many injuries they had. And
that was the thing, injuries.
Yeah.
That was the thing that got me was the injuries. But go on, I'm sorry. But one more question I want to ask because we have to end this set.
The Kansas City Chiefs won the AFC title with just as many injuries on the O-line. I mean, they started that Super Bowl with nobody. Their one constant was their center Rader, and he was a journeyman, but he was their starter. He was the only starter left. They didn't have an all-pro like the Eagles had with Kelsey, and they somehow made it to the Super Bowl. They got crushed, and it was a jailbreak the entire game, but they still won the AFC. You know, so things can happen. But go ahead.
Yeah. No, the question I was going to ask to close this out was, is there a danger, because it looks like Sirianni is in a situation where he's answering to the front office. I mean, Bill Parcells said something about, being able to have control over the groceries, so to speak.
Right.
Is that a difficult situation for a coach to not have that kind of input and have the front office dictate to him? Is that a danger for a team moving forward?
In this particular case, with all the politics and just the egos and just the awful situation that happened at the end of this season, it might not be a bad thing for Sirianni just to be this guy. Hey, man, I'm just here to coach, and not get involved in this stuff till the dust settles. So in this 1 year, this one time, the head coach, it might not be a bad idea to be kind of on the outside, like I'm just here to coach, and. He had a disastrous press conference to start off with, and that set the bar real low. So he's got, in a weird kind of way, he's got things going for him, in that regard.
I hope he's not Brett Brown. Okay, well, Al, thank you so much for coming here today, as always, and I love your show, Football. Where can we find Football Stories, the magazine, the radio, it's on Facebook, right?
Yes, Facebook and YouTube now. So we just got on there. So just check out the Facebook page, Al Thompson or Football Stories Magazine, and we'll give you all the information on how to watch the show on either YouTube or on Facebook. All right.
Okay, cool. Thanks, man. I'm gonna definitely say, I'm gonna check y'all out. So
of course, and you'll be back on soon, I'm sure. So,
okay, thank you, man.
All right, Chris. Take care.
Take care. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to go to break. You're listening to 96.1 FM, 900 AM WURD, the Chris Murray Report. Will be right back.
Attention WURD audience, do you know that you can get help with your PICO energy bill? PICO is here to help you with financial help through various assistance programs, including the PICO CAP program, which provides a monthly credit for eligible low-income customers based on the customer's total household gross income and energy usage. If you are experiencing financial hardship, you may qualify for the PICO CAP program.
And PICO Cares is the customer assistance and referral evaluation service designed to assist special needs, low-income customers who have a temporary personal or financial hardship that prevents the payment of your PICO energy bill. If you have a special needs child or adult in your care, your household may qualify for the CARES program.
Call 1-800-774-7040 today to see if you qualify due to an existing situation or a change in circumstances within your household. Call 1-800-774-7040 today for more information on the PICO CAP or PICO CARES program. PICO, powering our communities.
Did you know you can catch the flu and COVID-19 at the same time or even back to back? Don't risk catching the flu during the COVID-19 pandemic. The flu shot is a safe and effective way of reducing your chances of catching the flu or spreading it to others. And the flu shot helps protect you and your community from the worst effects of the flu. Don't say, I should have got my flu shot. Call your doctor or visit your pharmacist and get your flu shot today.
Tune in every Saturday at 4 p.m. for the Did You Know Show with host Bryant Green, right here on WURD 96.1 FM and 900 AM.
Hello, entrepreneurs, especially if you're in the food delivery space. CBD is one of the fastest growing health and wellness categories out today. And as it is now legal, you can expand your customer base and increase revenues per ticket by using this as a specialty food offering. CBDmealsdelivered.com is now for sale and would be a perfect website to integrate with your existing food delivery website. Thank you.
Tune in on Thursday, February 25th at 7 p.m. as New Voices for Reproductive Justice host Black Women, Green Future, Environmental Justice, and the New Political Landscape in partnership with WURD. Tune in Thursday, February 25th at 7 p.m. See you then.
This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Independent Black Media. You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Independent Black Media.
Okay, we are back. Today was the final, or 3 o'clock in the morning. I tried to stay up, Jordan, to watch Naomi Osaka. I just could not do it. I was also trying to get ready for the show, but I was just like, man. I mean, but she was just dominant last night, and she won her 4th Grand Slam title. And we have my good buddy and my good friend Marlisa Lawrence Corbett, who is the author of the book. And let's see if I have this memorized. Serena Williams, tennis champion, legend, and cultural heroine. Okay, I hope I got it right. I hope I got this right before.
That was close enough, Chris.
All right. Well, I'm gonna tell you, I'm trying to make sure I'm accurate because the thing is, I love your book and I read it and I love talking to you about it when we were at NABJ over the summer and everything. I'm still trying to find that clip. I don't want to get a copy of it, but. Naomi Osaka is emerging, is on the rise if she's not there yet. I mean, she's not there already, rather. And against the American player last night who had a decent draw, got to the final. She put up a fight, but you kind of knew throughout that this was Osaka's. This was Osaka's day, right? Kind of walk us through this match.
I picked Osaka to win only because she's been so dominant on the hard courts. And that draw was unbelievable, the side that she and Serena was on. In fact, when they went into the quarterfinals, the side Brady was on, they had 1 Grand Slam win. The other side had 33. So that tells you how much tougher that side was. So Brady hits harder than Osaka, but Brady's game is limited in terms of movement. And I heard the commentators say, hey, you guys, this is going to be a rivalry. I'm like, no. Osaka exposed Brady's weak backhand. If she doesn't get that fixed, every player is going to attack that backhand. And you can't have a wing that weak. You can't pick on Serena's forehand or backhand. She'll get them both. So I don't see this as a long-term rivalry. I think Sabalenka, who Serena played in the 4th round, is probably going to be the rival for Osaka, simply because she has a more all-around game. And Osaka, for as dominant as she's looked right now, if she doesn't turn things around, she's going to be to hard courts what Nadal is to clay. Because he hasn't done anything on grass or the French Open. She's not reached beyond the 3rd round. Last year, she didn't even play the French. When she lost in the 3rd round at the French Open in 2019, she was the top seed. She had won the U.S. Open the previous year. And so she's losing to nobodies in early rounds when you're the top seed. So,
I think I lost you. Where'd you go? Yes, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. Right.
Okay.
Can you hear me? All right.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Now, what I was saying about Naomi is that it's natural to paint her as the heir apparent to Serena because she's beaten Serena twice. But I look at this point in her career, Serena had won all 4 slams. And Naomi hasn't gotten close. And until she can change that and get an all-around game, she could win, I think, 10 slams. I think she can do double-digit slams. I just don't know if she's going to win in those other 2 tournaments because she's so far off in those tournaments. It's not close. She's not getting to the finals or anything. She's not getting beyond the 3rd round in those tournaments.
Right.
So
now I have to ask
about.
But yeah, I have to ask about Serena though, because the way I'm looking at Serena, even if she never wins the 24th Slam, if she never wins that, to me, I will say she's the greatest of all time, and I'll tell you why. Because at age 39, still to get to a Grand Slam semifinal against so many younger, faster players. To me, that's what she's doing now. To me, I would say on one level, is she playing with house money, or because, like I said again, I mean, she runs up. I mean, Naomi Osaka seems to have her number on the hard courts. I would like to see what would happen at Wimbledon or at Roland Garros, but I would like to see. That's the thing. Serena is still talk about how just is she still exuding greatness even if she doesn't win another Slam final?
I think Serena, to me, was the greatest of all time when she won the 18th. Really, she had already cemented herself. She didn't have to reach Graf, but she did. She didn't have to beat Graf, but she did in terms of the numbers. The court thing is artificial. I think that's just something for Serena to, she doesn't need to best court. I mean, nobody really believes court was better than Serena. Court was won most of her Australian Opens before the Open era at a time when they had a field of 34, and she lived in Australia and people weren't traveling there. So it's not even close to being the same thing where you have a field of 128 and you got world beaters, world-class athletes in every field. So I think she's playing with house money, but it's kind of going against her record. Serena had that type of world beater, like 90% in finals type record, but every time she loses in these, it kind of hurts her record. But she's still going to leave here ranked number 7. So she's still in the top 10, and she doesn't play that much. So I think she should play as long as she's happy. If she's just sticking around for a record, I don't think it's worth that. But if she still enjoys it, she definitely has the game. This was a tough draw, and you're talking the hottest player on hard courts, and these courts were fast. And you see she gave Naomi a much tougher time than Brady did. Naomi didn't play well today. She didn't play her best.
Right.
If Serena was getting those soft serves, Serena would have killed her the way she played today.
Right.
She played way better against Serena. So I think that Serena says that those players, those young kids bring their A game against her. Naomi did not bring the A game against Brady and still beat her in straight sets. She couldn't have beaten Serena playing that kind of game.
Wow.
Well, you saw when she faltered early, Serena was up 2-0. She had to really step it up a notch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She really did.
Yeah, because and that's the thing. I look at Serena. Does Osaka have Serena's number right now on the hard court surface? U.S. Open, Australian Open. Does she? Would you say at this point that she kind of, the last couple of times, it seems like Serena just can't break through against Osaka?
Osaka's 16 years younger. It really is simple as that.
Okay.
I mean,
all
she's
right.
got the talent, but this Osaka does not beat 2013. I ain't even talking about 23-year-old Serena. She can't beat 32-year-old Serena. But you beat 39-year-old mom Serena. Yeah, and the 39-year-old mom Serena, who's turning 40 this year, you had to bring your A game to beat her. That's how good Serena is. There's no way she beats 2013 Serena that went 78-4 through that field. No way.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. I remember that Serena, man. I still remember when in 2012 when she just went through the Olympics, I mean,
like
not granted, I know.
And if you go back and watch these clips on YouTube, Serena was probably at least 30 pounds lighter. She was way younger.
Right.
You're talking almost a decade younger. So, yeah, there's just no way this Naomi hits hard, she's fast, Great shot selection, playing with a ton of confidence. That's what helps. She feels like she can't be beaten. She can come back from any time. That's a good thing to have. Serena used to have that now. Serena's just older. Going on 40 in tennis,
yeah,
that's really up there. But, no, I don't think – and I'm hoping Naomi goes and gets better on the other surfaces. I would hate for her to be relegated to just hard courts.
Right, right.
I hope she really goes and works on that.
But I want to look more at Serena now because she comes into this new season, still, is she still kind of trying to overcome a bevy of injuries, a whole bunch of, where is she physically at this point as we get into, I think the next one is, I don't know if it was affected by COVID, but I'm assuming that Roland Garros is next, the French Open is next, right? Next major.
It's supposed to be. It's funny because it was late last year, but it should be. I think that's one of the reasons Serena was in tears is that she was in great shape, and she worked hard. She's always going to have the ankle issues.
Right.
But she was moving better than I've seen her move post-pregnancy.
Right.
So, I thought she looked great. She seems healthy. She had that extra time because of COVID. I think the French Open will do her well. I think that's where, if she doesn't run into somebody like Muguruza, one of those clay court specialists, I think the clay helps Serena, because Naomi can't hit through her on clay. And Serena actually knows how to play on clay. Naomi does not. She doesn't look natural on clay. She doesn't slide. Who's going to beat Serena on clay unless it's a clay court specialist? And right now there aren't many of them out there. Carlos Suarez Navarro is out with cancer. There's not many. Muguruza is the only one I think who could cause damage. And the people who give Serena trouble on the hard courts aren't good on clay. Like Kvitova is great on grass and on the hard court. The people who Kerber's having such a down year, and Barty probably is the only one, and I think even on clay, Serena could beat Barty. So the Naomi Osakas, the Bradys, Sabalenkas, the people who Azarenka, who can give Serena trouble on the hard courts, don't have that kind of game on clay, and Serena's very good on clay. She's still very good on clay. And it slows it down. It takes the pressure off her knees. If she can stay healthy, I know people look to Wimbledon. I actually think the French Open is her best shot.
So that's her best shot. That was going to be my next question. Her best shot to win another major will be in Paris rather than in London. And
both of those are better than the U.S. Open, I think. I think those two are better because the kids who are coming up, they hit so hard, and the hard courts are so unforgiving. The hard courts really reward the hard hitters, where clay rewards the better player. You got to have some finesse. Right. That's why Rafa hasn't won as many off of clay, because he can be, somebody like Djokovic can hit right past him. They're faster. So, and not that Nadal's doing bad on hard courts. It's just he's not I think he has one Australian Open title. Most of his titles have come on clay. Right. Yeah.
So, what would be the more poignant moment for let's assume that if you had to pick a place where she's going to win 24, is Wimbledon, would Paris be the most, popular place for her to do it, or would she be more appreciated and beloved at Wimbledon? I get the feeling at Wimbledon, she wins at Wimbledon this year, she's going to bring the house down with that. I think she will bring.
She's actually well liked in Paris. Plus, since she only has 3 French Open titles, I'm sure she'd like to add another one. Remember, she speaks fluent French, has an apartment in Paris. So she's, they see her as part-time Parisian. Her coach, she trains in Paris, outside of Paris. So I think she's just as beloved. I just think that's a smaller crowd. So when you say bring the house down, it's not as much to bring down in Roland Garros because they got the smallest stadium.
Right.
So it
Right.
doesn't seem as electric as the other stadiums because it's much smaller. But I think either one, she would be embraced. I think Serena kind of wants to be done with it. It's an Olympic year, too. She's in line to make the Olympics again. If that goes, it looks like it's going to happen. You don't know with COVID.
Yeah.
But, I think she'll be embraced, but it'll be interesting to see the problem with making a deep run at Roland Garros. If you don't win, Wimbledon's right there. There's not that.
Right.
You don't get much time to recover. The U.S. Open has become so stressful for her. She likes playing at the U.S. Open, but every major controversy in her career has happened at the U.S. Open, all of them. So I don't know if that's the place. I know it's her home tournament, but when you think of every outburst, every negative thing, every cheating scandal where she was cheated out of that Capriati game, it's all happened on her home turf.
Wow. And I was gonna say, as an athlete, I heard a lot of people talking this week about the quote unquote, or last week, the quote unquote GOATs of all time, and I've rarely heard anyone mention Serena Williams or even why am I having Jackie Joyner-Kersee in that, in those conversations, because I think that in terms of winners, I think that Serena Williams is probably, and I know it's an individual sport, but I think that you can put her in somebody's top 5 of just athletes who are just winners of all time. What are your thoughts about?
I think because she plays an individual sport, she should rank higher than Brady. Brady, to me, is not a great athlete. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. You've seen him run away from tackling people. He's not a great athlete. Plus, football, it's not an international sport. When you break it down, the offense, even if they're having a good day, may have the ball for, 20 minutes? Then you take away the huddles and stuff. How long does Brady actually play?
Okay,
whereas in tennis, you're out there by yourself. You're out there by yourself. But yes, now, NFL is physical. Yeah, you're taking hits. But they've put in rules now where if you hit the quarterback too hard, it's a penalty. So he's not getting hit like Marino and Elway used to get hit. So to me, because tennis, even basketball, it's a team sport, but they do play on an international level. And I always put the soccer players, people just, we're Americans just totally dismissive of some of these soccer players. These are true international sports. You have to beat the best in the world. You're playing the best in the world. The NFL is not even, top 6 sport on the world stage. So they're not even playing everybody in the world. So how do you know if you're the best? You're not even playing everybody in the world. Because the NBA, the best basketball players come to the NBA, but they come from all over the world. If you're the best, you're competing against the best in the world. So it's the same to me with tennis, soccer, the truly international sports. I actually elevate them ahead of American football because it's just something we do here. It's a short season. Tennis season is from January to November. That's a long season to be traveling all over the world, playing everybody. And you have to win your title, it's not best of 7. It's not the best that day. You have to win 7 straight in these tournaments. That's hard to keep winning 7 straight of anything.
Right.
When you think about it, the way tennis is set up, no coaching, that's mentally stressful. You don't get those breaks. If you're hurt and you can't get better in 10 minutes, you got to forfeit the game.
Right.
There's no sub. Come in for 2
That's
plays.
true.
It's over for you. You got 10-minute timeout. That's it.
Wow.
10-minute medical timeout. If they can't patch you up and you can't go back out there, you got to give it up.
Okay. So in that case, and I'm gonna tell you something. You presented a brilliant treatise on this whole thing. I gotta thank you for that because like I said again, to win 23 Grand Slams, you make an excellent point. To win 23 Grand Slams against the best in the world, to me, I think it's sexist on a lot of levels that we often don't, consider women athletes, consider Martina Navratilova or Billie Jean King, people like that, as great athletes. Jackie Joyner-Kersee, who in the Olympics was so dominant that, there was a sport, I think it was John Feinstein, who got upset that someone put Jackie Joyner-Kersee as one of the great athletes of the 20th century. And I just think that sometimes women's athletics get such short shrift in all this.
Well,
I'm looking at what's...
I think one of the reasons they do it is that they try to put women against men, and that doesn't... They said, well, Serena couldn't beat Federer. I'm like, she doesn't compete against Federer. Simone Biles does not compete against male gymnasts. So we know men are physically stronger. That doesn't mean they're a better tennis player or a better athlete. They just have a genetic makeup that makes them physically stronger. You know? So you have to see apples to apples. People will throw that in there. Well, she wouldn't be able to beat. I said, well, maybe if they started taking estrogen, they wouldn't beat her.
Right.
But it's like, no, our bodies are different, but you have to go by your dominance, your athleticism, accomplishments, and she was far more dominant than Federer. Right now, I don't even know why people bring up Federer. He to me, is no way he can claim greatest of all time in men's tennis because of his losing record to his 2 contemporaries. It's like, you're not even the greatest in your era.
Right.
You have that kind of losing records to Djokovic and Nadal. So to me, he can't even make that claim. He's a beautiful player, but he's not even dominating in his own era. And Serena dominated everybody. She has winning records. I mean, she doesn't have a winning record against Osaka, but to me, with this advanced age, it's not the same. Right. And I think, McManus wrote for Deadspin about Naomi is not Serena's rival. She's Serena's legacy. I'm like, yeah, I see it more as that. She's somebody who patterned her game after Serena. She's coming up while Serena's in the twilight of her career. So they're not true rivals. True rivals, even Vika, who's younger than Serena, is close enough in age where they were really battling. But to me, with a 16-year age gap, you're not real rivals. I mean, and it's not just that she's 16 years younger. Serena's turning 40. That's a big difference in terms of athleticism. Brady's not out there for 2 hours straight by himself. Like I said, 20 minutes max. You're having a good day as an offense if the quarterback has the ball for 20 minutes.
Yeah. Wow. On that note, Melissa, like I say again, Lisa Lawrence Corbett for the win. And and listen, let's before I have to let you go, we got to go to break. Give my listeners the correct title of the book this time. Don't rely on me. Here's the author.
No, you were very close. It's Serena Williams, tennis champion, legend, and cultural heroine. You were very close. I think you might have missed the comma.
I missed the comma. Oh, boy. I get on my students about that. Don't let my students know that I missed the comma. Don't let them know. So, because they'll say, Dad, Mr. Mayor, you got on me for Mr. Comma. I says, yes, you missed the comma. So now I got it. Now I can't give this broadcast out to my students. So, Melissa, as always, thank you. I hope you guys are warmer down in Florida because we got all this snow out here and everything.
It's beautiful here. It's a beautiful day here, like mid to low 60s. Yeah, it's nice.
Oh, cool. Thank you so much.
Right. Okay.
We got it.
Take care.
Take care. We got to go to break, ladies and gentlemen. You listen to 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURD. The Chris Murray Report will be right back.
Toyota proudly presents In Their Own Words. Although small in physical stature, Ida B. Wells was a giant in America's civil rights movement. As one of the founders of the NAACP, with a lifetime combating prejudice, violence, and ever fighting for African American equality, she was a media mogul and arguably became the most famous black woman in America of her time, communicating with hundreds of thousands of African Americans in her weekly newspapers.
The people must know before they can act, and there is no educator to compare with the press. I had an instinctive feeling that people who have little or no school training should have something coming into their homes weekly which dealt with their problems in a simple, helpful way. So I wrote in plain, common sense, weigh on the things that concerned our people.
Toyota is pleased to feature African American icons expressing themselves in their own words. Toyota, let's go places.
I'm Anthony McLaughlin. Been denied insurance? Call 215-782-8574. Life insurance, age 0 to 85, no examination needed. Homeowners insurance, any home, any condition, same-day coverage. 215-782-8574. Auto insurance, we can have you covered in 15 minutes. Business insurance, call 24 hours a day, 215-782-8574. I'm Anthony McLaughlin. When you need insurance, I can help.
WURD Radio is proud to broadcast Monday, February 22nd at noon, the 6th annual Jefferson Salutes Martin Luther King Jr.'s Vision, featuring Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, who will be discussing his most recent book, Tears We Cannot Stop. Tune in February 22nd at noon for this amazing discussion, brought to you by Thomas Jefferson University and Jefferson Health.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Okay, we are back, but before I go on with the rest of the show, I have to talk about Black History Month. WURD is committed to keeping Black history alive and ensuring that our voices are heard. Every February, we honor Black history, and each day we are committed to making Black history. WURD is the only black-owned and operated talk radio station in Pennsylvania. We serve our community by providing information to educate, uplift, and inspire our listeners. Make your mark in Black history now. Join or renew your forward membership today. Go to our website and leave your mark. And let us know your favorite show by selecting the name of the show at the checkout. Please visit www.wurdradio.com. Join now for more information. And ladies and gentlemen, I got to give you a hint. The Chris Murray, you finish out the rest. Check on that one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I'm waiting on my man Joe San Liquido, and let me go text Joe, see if he's still out there. If we have Joe on, but here's the deal. Joe San Liquido, I'm having him on today to talk about, the Carson Wentz situation, since he was the guy who basically reported on Carson Wentz's issues within the locker room. And so, from that standpoint, I like to get his comments on that once he calls in to talk about what he thought of the situation, what he thinks of the Eagles situation moving forward. I'm going to ask him about whether or not he feels that Jalen Hurts can be the guy moving forward. I kind of slightly disagree with Al. I mean, Al Thompson, my guest, because he's saying, well, he had a chance to make greatness, and it's hard to tell. I need to see him with more reps. I need to see Jalen Hurts with more reps and organized team activities, OTAs. I need to see him go through the full gambit as a starter. This was a difficult situation, which is why I kind of felt, and like I said, I've said this down there, Al and I are cool about it. We can agree to disagree, but I kind of feel like, let the guy, I'm always saying let the guy prove himself a little bit, let him do his thing, and, he's going to have to prove himself when he when he comes, if he's in a situation where he's a starter. I think the kid's a gym rat. I think the kid works his butt off, and I think that give him time to get better at it, get really good at it. I mean, like I always tell the story, Johnny Unitas in his first time they threw him on the field, he threw a pick 6 to J.C. Caroline and the Chicago Bears. Okay, ask me how I know stuff about that. I do read and I do study, but the thing is that a lot of times you got to let a guy go through the full game. He didn't have a preseason. Remember, they didn't have much of a preseason, and he needs to work on whatever skills he has to work on. But he's working now. You saw flashes. So, but then again, the Eagles could bring in another quarterback. We got Joe San Liquido with us now, and so Joe, gotta ask you, brother. Gotta ask you, all the events that took place this week. What are you? I need to hear from you because you've been reporting on this for the last couple of years, and we've talked about this, and a lot of people. And I'm gonna say this: a lot of our colleagues gave you a lot of, well, I can't say what they gave you on the air, but
we both know.
Yeah, and so. My thing at the end of the day, first, what's your reaction to Wentz being traded? What's your reaction to how this whole situation played out? Because you kind of saw it a little bit from the ground up from the players and the sources that you used in your stories.
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks. Let me express this to you openly. You know this. Appreciate you having my back and supporting me. When a lot of other people in the city just thought I made it up and I'm a joke and I'm this and I'm that. Well, you know what? Here's the deal. If I is supposed to be what I was supposed to be, think about this. I don't think none of this would have happened, Chris. It may have eventually taken some time, but here's the deal. They knew there was an issue. They knew there was a problem. This was something here that had taken time, festered, and it's twofold. There's two causes, two blames here. First, the blame is Wentz himself. He could have certainly handled things better. People say, it started when they drafted Jalen Hurts. No, it exploded when they drafted Jalen Hurts. The problem was already there. You know it, Chris, and I know it.
Right.
He did not exactly handle himself very well, even prior to the situation. They knew how mentally fragile he could be. And this was certainly told to me and expressed to me, as we both know now, a couple years ago, in the story that I did, January 21st of 2019. But here's what's twofold. So I put it 50% on Wentz because he's far more intelligent to see things that were there and to recognize. I looked at this as self-aware, or was self-aware, to look at himself in the mirror and just say, hey, man, I got to turn around and accept some of these things. I got to change some things up. Well, obviously, we know that he didn't because he'd still be an Eagle if he did. And then here's the other side of it, is the Eagles themselves. The Eagles and Carson Wentz. And to really simplify everything, it's very simple. You have a petulant child. What do? You smack the child in the wrist. You smack him on the butt. You and I have spoken about this many, many, many times, especially over the last couple of years. You address the issue. Junior, Missy, hit your tail in the corner, or you're going to deal with that. And what was happening here is that feeling of entitlement was handed over to Wentz. Now, when you let a child go, and you let them go, and you let them go, they come to expect certain things, Chris.
Right.
And again, we both know that. They come to expect this, and they come to expect that, and then suddenly when that shiny new toy's taken away from them, they rant, and they rave, and they yell, and they scream. And I don't care what anyone said. I know it was a nice, heartfelt goodbye that Wentz said on social media. I don't know, it was Instagram, whatever the hell he says on. That's all fine, and that's nice, and it looks good. But the bottom line is Carson Wentz could have prevented this. And Carson Wentz wanted out of here, and he wanted to trade. And again, it was a very, very simple fact. You turn around, and these things were coming out. These things were planted by his agent, Ryan Pollner, regardless of what Ryan Pollner may have said to anyone. The fact of the matter is, Ryan Pollner is a very powerful agent. And the other thing that's a fact, think about this, the two of the biggest trades right now that have gone on in the NFL so far have been dealing with quarterbacks. Goff to the Lions in exchange for Matt Stafford. Carson Wentz to the Indianapolis Colts in exchange for draft picks. And both Goff and Wentz are represented by Ryan Pollner.
Right.
That's not a coincidence. I don't find that a coincidence at all. Goff, well, I have the strong feeling, I don't know that situation completely, but I got the feeling Goff at least wanted back with the Rams. We know, like, again, an angry, petulant child, you drafted her. You took my candy away. You know, what was that famous commercial in the 50s and 60s? I want my rainbow.
Yeah, see, but I have to ask you this question, though. And this is something that Al Thompson and I talked about earlier, was the fact that basically Doug Peterson was really put in between a rock and a hard place in a sense that he really did not have control over the coaches and even over the players, and somehow when the front office undermines the authority of the head coach, which often has happened in say in Washington a lot, what type of impact did that have upon Wentz in terms of his respect for Doug Peterson, especially in light of the fact that a lot of people reported that that Peterson and Wentz went through 10 or 11 weeks of not speaking to each other?
Well, first off, I don't believe that. What I do believe, what I know very freely, whatever he did, and I think I actually mentioned this to you privately, if you remember me telling you this. They went 6 weeks without talking to each other.
Right.
They did not. I mean, it's true that they didn't speak. I don't think it extended 10 weeks. I think it went as long as 6. Now, this was a case of, I actually think this came maybe from the Eagles and Howie Roseman, that it lasted that long to make both Peterson and Wentz look bad. And again, we know the game, Chris. We know how the game is played. I think here you're dealing with a case of, again, as you know, as per my February 8th story in Philly Voice, that Peterson was reaching out. You know, if you look at the split between the two, I put far more on Carson Wentz's plate than I do Peterson's plate. You know, he let him play quite a bit longer, at least 2 or 3 weeks longer than he should have. And again, we all saw that. The eye test told us. Peterson let Wentz play 3 or 4 weeks longer than he should have before he pulled the plug on it. He gave Wentz, again, that freedom at the line of scrimmage. As I wrote about in the February 8th story, you know, all the formation. It's up to Wentz to turn around, to see and read the defense, and put his offense in the most advantageous position that he could. And consequently, sometimes, well, oftentimes, as we know, Wentz didn't read things properly. And he was making mistake after mistake after mistake. He's holding the ball, again, we all know, holding the ball too long, not seeing the defense, throwing. I mean, those interceptions in the second half of the season opener against Washington, if you look at it, I mean, that spelled the end of almost everything. They get off to that house-on-fire start. I believe it was a 17-0 lead. And then Washington scores the next 21 points unanswered. They win the game going away. And that's when the beginning, we can call that the beginning of the end. Because suddenly now Peterson, again, is allowing Wentz to turn around, having that freedom at the line of scrimmage. And then it comes to a point in time. I can't pinpoint it. I wasn't told specifics. But there was a point in time last season where Peterson finally said, you know what, Carson? You know, the shiny new toy that I had been dangling in front of your eyes for so long, I got to pull those reins back in, man. I got to pull this shiny new toy back more closely to me and more into my pocket. Wentz went into a Smith fit, and again, we know the ending. And as I've told you, again, privately and publicly, numerous times, Chris, Wentz had the direct line to the backbone. And as I wrote in my original story in 2018, he wielded far more power in that organization. But again, it's twofold. It's according to Wentz having the power, but the other side of it, and this is where the Eagles are at fault. The Eagles are allowing Wentz to have that power. So again, here I'm going to give you this toy to play with. It could be dangerous, But here, it's in the parents' hands, handing their child this dangerous toy, which shouldn't have been. He should never have been given that kind of power in the first place. He was a Jeffrey Lurie pick, and he was, because of what anybody wants to say or think. Lurie was there. He was a Jeff Lurie pick. Lurie had his ego riding on this pick, and then suddenly again, and I firmly believe, by the way, Wentz had Doug Peterson, and we both know Doug as being one of the really, really, really good guys in the sport, and one of the really good guys that's come through Philadelphia. He was the one that led Peterson to his demise. And it's kind of a shame, again, 3 years after they win the Super Bowl, and the guy makes the playoffs in the following 2 seasons as a coach, as a head coach. And this is the way he gets booted out the door. And now I'm an Indianapolis Colt. Hey, if this guy can do this to Doug Peterson.
Let me ask you a question. I read somewhere, and I can't recall off the top of my head where I read it, that Frank Reich, when he was here in Philadelphia, said some things that basically warned, I guess, maybe Doug Peterson, or basically said some things about Carson Wentz that weren't necessarily as flattering about his ability, even though.
No, they weren't. They were. He could be difficult to deal with, but Reich spun it in such a way that I like that. I like that feedback. But in Reich's mind, the way he portrayed it, Chris, it was a give and take. I'm giving, I'm taking as a coach. As a player, Wentz is giving, he's taking. There's a collaborative, a collaborative effort between the two. That's not the case at all. It's Wentz's way or the highway, and we saw that translate home to the field.
Right. So all these things, Con, you say that it also falls back to the front office, and I want to know the front office's role in all this, because it seems to me, it's like on the one hand, it looks like, yes, Roseman kept saying, hey, Wentz is our guy, and yet
he's a hand, he's a finger on my hand.
Right.
Yeah.
And he basically, then he brings in Jalen Hurts, and I want to know. I'm curious to find out who was on a board. Well, I don't think was Peterson on board with this. Who was on board with all this, bringing in Hurts? I mean, I'm wondering. I'm curious about what led to that. What do you think led to that decision to bring in Hurts?
Oh, that's very simple. I mean, with McCown as a 40-year-old backup, placing them in a position to beat the Seahawks in that wild card playoff game at Lincoln Financial Field. They have a better backup. That's how simply Jalen Hurts was here to do, is possibly grow in the position and grow to become a better quarterback, but he was here to back up Carson Wentz. And Wentz took it, and his insecurity and his lack of confidence in himself, he took it to the upteenth degree, thinking Hurts is here to undermine me and take my job. Well, you boob, why did they give you a $128 million contract? They're not exactly throwing that. That's not exactly pocket change where you're throwing out at someone. No. Rest assured, Carson, you're set, making his $33.8 million a year or whatever he's making. You're set. We've awarded you. We've lavished you with the most expensive contract in franchise history. We've thrown this at you, and this is the way you still think? That you're that insecure that we've taken Jalen Hurts in to undermine you? Doesn't make any sense. In Carson Wentz's mind, it makes sense, but other than that, it doesn't make any sense.
Okay. Hey, Joe, hold on to that thought because we got to go to break. When I come back, we'll delve into this a little bit more. You're listening to 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURD, the Chris Murray Report. We'll be right back.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Pennsylvanians are creating their own soundtrack. Thanks to PA Lottery Scratch-Offs, excitement's back. Pennies, nickels, dimes, or quarters, no matter your choice, scratching's always in order. With big top prizes and second chance drawings, thrills await. They're out there calling if it's excitement you seek and you're looking for action, play the PA Lottery. And keep on scratching. Must be 18 or older. Please play responsibly. Benefits older Pennsylvanians every day.
Hi, this is retired Judge Thomasine Tynes, inviting you to tune in this Sunday at 4 p.m. with the Judge and Jetty Show with attorney Jetty Newkirk. Learn about a lot of things you may just not know.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Okay, we are back with Joe Sanlaquito, Philly Voices, good Lord, Ring Magazine, .TV, and thousand things. I can't keep up with you, But the thing is, when I look at this whole thing, so you're saying that in the final analysis here, that Wentz's insecurity, but coupled with maybe the front office. I mean, does the front office have any culpability with this? Is that because they allowed, one, they took Peterson's ability to have, assistant coach to pick his own assistant coaches? Doesn't that put the head coach in a situation where if players see that you're really not the one that you're really not the one that's really in charge of all this, doesn't that make it easier for a player to kind of undermine the head coach?
I actually disagree with that, because this coaching staff, which was a very good coaching staff that the Eagles did put together,
right,
was selected for Peterson, and he pretty much he did very, very well with it. So, and the team, by the way, knew this. And here's something else too. And again, Chris, we know this for a fact. If it was undermining Peterson, think about how hard they played for Doug. They played hard for that guy. They did for that guy. So I think that answers. I know that answers that question. And again, like the culpability falls 50-50. It falls on Wentz and his petulant behavior and his immaturity. And here's supposedly a really smart guy. Well, you know what, young man? You're smart enough to turn around, step outside yourself, see what the hell you're doing, see how you're alienating your teammates, see how that alienation leads to how you're alienating them as well in the field, and that all translates to the the deterioration in this place, certainly this season. His insecurities were certainly there for everyone to display, and the culpability that lies on the Eagles. And again, I don't think they'll ever do this again, where you're handing someone, think about this, Donovan McNabb, the most established, the best quarterback in Eagles history, regardless of Bulls winning the Super Bowl or anything that Wentz has done. Donovan McNabb's the greatest quarterback in Eagles history. And they didn't even give McNabb the kind of power. Think about this, Chris. They didn't give McNabb the kind of entitlement and the power that Wentz had. And Wentz didn't do anything to establish that, which amazes me. And that's where, again, the Eagles fall. The Eagles lie here guilty as well, because, again, they're embellishing this guy, throwing the platitudes, you're the man, do this, you're that, and the other thing. And again, as I've used with you numerous times, you had a direct line to the bat phone. McNabb had access to Jeff Lurie. He could call Jeff Lurie, but I don't think, the impression I had is I don't think McNabb was able to call Lurie and say things to Lurie, or at least go to him, crying, as we know, or at least I think Wentz did, about complaining about this and that. I mean, he and Andy butted heads, but in the end, if you notice that power play at the end, it was McNabb that was traded, and Coach Andy Reid was still here. Wentz wielded that much power, and by the way, did nothing in comparison to what Donovan McNabb did as an Eagle. Yet he had the power enough, think about this, he had the power enough to wield his sword and get a Super Bowl winning coach, a beloved Super Bowl winning coach, fired.
Wow. And a lot of people complained about Donovan because when I look at that situation, because I was there through much of that up until I came to Philly in 2004, and I still remember Donovan, just everybody was the bane of everyone's existence. They blamed him for T.O., they blamed him. And, you know, here was a guy, if he tried to wield that kind of power, oh my God, McNabb would have been called all kinds of SOBs in this town.
But I also think, too, I think part of the fan base, I think part of that was because McNabb's black. And I think there's
and that's a part of that, too.
There's a prejudicial element to this fan base, and I'm going to go here with this, Chris. That's part of the reason why, again, Wentz was able to get away with what he was able to get away with, and people came down on McNabb. And in today's society, we're all socially media connected. You're able to hide by and hide under some things. But I call it, again, the cult of Carson. Many of them a month ago may have been climbing up the Capitol walls wearing red. And I stated that on your air a few weeks ago, and I'm sticking by that. You know, there's still an element, I'm not saying a majority, I'm saying an element of the Eagles fan base that think in a certain way. And I'm going to stop there and leave that alone.
Well, I don't
think you argue with me.
I won't argue with you. But what I do think, what about our role? I mean, I think that when that story broke, and I was listening to on some of the other stations around town, I mean, a lot of people, it seemed like people were upset at the fact that you said something. It was interesting you brought up, you know, the cult of Carson. I think that Carson, to some white fans, might have been, I don't know, their great white hope, as it were, you know. And when you broke that initial story, I mean, people came at you hard. I mean, I just sat back there like, wow. And it wasn't just, you know, the people on social media. It's, like I say, some of our colleagues. Our colleagues kind of, you know, they came at you. And so
many of them, I'll tell you this, in fairness to them, a number of people have actually come up to me and apologized. And like I said, there's certain people in the media, obviously you're one of them, Marcus Hayes is one of them, my very dear friend Bernie Fernandez is certainly one of them, Paul Domowitch, I can go down a list. Our Duckwood Times friends, Jack McCack is our guy.
Jack,
some of the suburban guys, John McMullen, can't say enough about him. And I found it interesting that the bigger platformed media, with the exception of Marcus, the bigger platform media was on my tail about it. And here's the reason why. There's a great story for you. Prior to the 2018 season, this is after the Super Bowl, prior to the 18 season, Marcus Hayes, and this is public because Marcus made it public and he gave me permission to talk about it. Prior to the 2018 season, the Inquirer Sports Department is in a staff meeting, delegating what stories they're going to write, what they're going to focus on, previewing the 2018 season, again, the season after the Super Bowl. So this is the summer of 2018. And Marcus tells them, and they're looking for stories in different ways we could spin this, the deification of Carson Wentz, the deification of Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz this and Carson Wentz that, you know, portray him as a deity. And Marcus warns them and says, guys, I'm hearing some feedback here that's not exactly painting this guy as the best ideal teammate, and, to quote Marcus, the best ideal employee. You know, there's some things here that are concerning. And Marcus was shouted down. They didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to believe it. Again, this is the summer of 2018. Didn't want to hear it. Didn't want to believe it. And Marcus warned them. He says, we better do something on it, and we better address it, or someone else will, and we're going to look like a bunch of dopes. And I'm giving credit where credit is due. And Marcus has had my back publicly. He's had my back privately. He knows the score. Marcus knows the score. And we know people in the Philadelphia media that know something, but didn't want to turn around and step on the edge of that ledge. And you're talking to the fool that did.
So there was this investment into making Carson Wentz. That is fascinating to me, and to a lot of my listeners who listen to the show. A lot of people express that. I mean, and because in our community, we see this all the time. When we bring it up, oftentimes, if I bring it up, I know if I brought this up, they wanted to run me out of town because they always say that I'm a quote unquote race baiter anyway, and I'm not really. You know, you know me well enough to know, you know, that I try to be. I'm sorry.
But here's something else that I noticed. Again, like I said, the suburban guys were quote unquote, I'm not going to say on my side, but okay, John, all right. I also noticed something else. the majority of my support came from the African American community. I found it very interesting that it did fall under racial lines. I would say 80 to 85% of the people that backed my original story were African American. Right. Another 15% were like, well, people that know me, like you know me, I know John, I don't think it's going to make something like this up. And basically, you know the 8 million oars I have in the water. I'm certainly not going to blow all that on a story like this. I mean, I knew I had dynamite in my hands, but I also knew I had something else which trumps, screws that word, which overrides everything. And Chris, I had the truth on my side. I knew I was right because I had the truth on my side. And I found it very interesting that, again, in terms of support, you and Darryl and Marcus, and I can go down a list of how that very, very interesting way, how that felt in terms of support to what I officially did. I even removed even though I was put into the middle of it, because I'm a schmo, and we both know I was called a joke, and I was this and I was that. Well, I don't care. Call me anything you want. But also in the end, when I'm through, call me right.
Okay. And on that note, as you hear the music in the background, we have got to go. Joe, thank you so much for being here today. As always.
Thank you for everything, man. I really, really appreciate it.
No, not a problem, dude. You, like I say, you my man. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next week. We'll have another action-packed Chris Murray report. Have a great weekend, everybody. Y'all stay safe, stay healthy. Take care.